The heck is going on with Sony?
All right, we're talking Sony then. So Sony canceled 2 more games this week, both live service naturally. One from Ben Studio, who of course did Days Gone.
Okay.
The other from Blue Point, and the Blue Point one was a God of War live service game. I was curious your thoughts on that.
I'm so glad.
I was about,
so glad
I was about
it's
to say,
canceled.
aren't we all happy that got canceled?
Absolutely.
Like all I could think when that happened is like, I'm sorry, Blue Point. I'm sorry you got tasked with trying to make this, but also I'm so glad this isn't coming out.
Yeah.
It's the last thing we need.
100%. No, so like
The only thing that I could think that direction could go is it's God of War, but you're like, I mean, at Ragnarok, Atreus runs off to go do his own
Right.
thing. I can only assume it was following Atreus.
okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, because the last thing I would want is my next God of War experience with Kratos to be a live service type game.
Right.
I would hate that.
I mean,
You
they
think it
did.
could be like another? You think it could have been like another spin on like Valhalla?
I mean, they did work on PlayStation All Stars. Could have been a fighter.
Could have. Yeah, I guess it could have been that.
Yeah.
A God of War fighter. That would have been interesting.
That would have been intense.
I mean, a lot of characters for it, I suppose, but I don't know. Bottom line, we're glad it's gone.
Yeah, one of the big points. 'Cause I watched a couple videos of people kind of giving their thoughts on it. One of the things that I saw was kind of a common thread is, man, with these 2 games being canceled now, it really is kind of like the end of that live service guarantee that Sony tried to make a few years ago.
yeah.
Of having like at least 5 live service games or like games as service by 2025 and that. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, one, nobody wanted that. You just wanted a constant income of money from these games. But also it's like, how far gone does like the project have to be? Like how sunk does it have to be to where you're like, it's cheaper for us to just stop working on it?
Yeah, no, that's a fact, because like the whole idea for like the question that I have is like, is this the worst like mismanaged generation for Sony? And I know you can like, well, look at the PS3 for the cell processor, the price point, stuff like that. But like, dude, you're right. I mean, like they had 12 live service games planned. 8 has been canceled. Like 8.
One bombed within a couple weeks.
Yeah, one bomb in the couple weeks. And you also have to think, like, out of the 8 that's canceled, it's not like all of them are, like, random-ass games. I mean, you have 2 of your biggest properties that you try to turn live service, The Last of Us and God of War, and then a pretty nostalgic property with Twisted Metal that also got canceled. Like, you've got heavy hitters here, notable properties that you're still canceling these for. Like, dude, like, when this generation has finally come and gone, right? I think like a lot of people within the industry and fans and whatever are going to look back at this generation and look back at Jim Ryan and be like, dude, this is the worst mismanaged generation in Sony's history. Like, it's not going to be a bad generation. Let me make that very clear. The PS5 is already selling incredible.
Yeah.
The PS3, with all of its problems, with the cell processor in it being a ticking time bomb, right? It's still a like top 10 selling console of all time, right? Like it's got a great catalog.
Yeah.
Like, and it's going to be the same thing for the PS5. But like when you look at stuff like this, I mean, how can you not have that thought? Like, is this the worst like mismanaged generation? I mean, you wasted 5 years of Ben Studio, 5 years of Ben Studio that could have been doing a Days Gone 2 that would have sold fine, would have made you some money. Blue Point, did Demon Souls. They did what you just said, right? Or was that Ben that you pulled?
No,
up?
that was Blue Point.
That was Blue Point, who did All Stars, right? Like, you wasted their time.
I mean, they've worked on a lot of stuff. They're
Yeah.
not like the main developers of a lot.
They
lot of
just
games,
help out a lot.
but they help out a lot.
Exactly. You wasted Naughty Dog's time and money with Last of Us Factions, right? You're wasting money and people's time over and over again. So it's just like, I feel like this is like just an ungodly, out of touch, mismanaged generation. And it's also one thing that's also kind of crazy to me and I'm saying this as a fan of the property. Love the property. The property is so damn fascinating. The one thing that continues to get by is Horizon. The Horizon MMO still in the works, still happening. We have the Horizon movie coming out. There's another Horizon, I think, games as a service, that's coming out. We just had the VR game and the Lego game come by and go. No one really gave a shit, and Horizon's still getting by. I understand it's because the one dude. I can't remember his name. The one dude is now the new head of the software side of PlayStation Studios, and he's from Gorilla, of course. But that's the one thing that keeps on getting by. And I love the property, but that's just crazy to me.
Well, the thing with Horizon is Horizon isn't known to be a big upfront moneymaker.
Right.
It's the long-term moneymaker.
It's the longevity of it.
It's for the last 7 years, it's kind of been it came out initially and it kind of was there, and it was the game that was on everybody's backlog.
Yeah.
But when people got to it, everybody loved it.
Yep.
It's nobody ever has anything bad to say about Horizon.
Yep.
And I think that's just maintained true with everything that's going to come out for it. It may not blow up immediately, but it's going to have that constant source of people coming back to it, or people coming back to give it a shot.
Right.
Whereas, some of these other ones, nobody's going to want them. It's you're going to take some of these other big name properties and try to turn them into live service. They're going to flop immediately because people are going to be outraged.
Right.
If they announced a God of War live service game, they would have to shut it down immediately after announcing it because people would have been pissed.
Yeah. Oh, another one I forgot to even mention in terms of heavy property names that got canceled was Spider-Man: The Great Web.
Right.
But now that was one of the few that I think would have been good, personally.
It could have been.
I think the concept for that was really interesting. But no, I think you're on point with the God of War one. With a property like God of War, I can't see a realm where I can wrap my head around even being open to a live service God of War game. I can wrap my head slightly around a Last of Us game. I can wrap my head around a Spider-Man game. You know what I mean? I can wrap my head around that and either get on board or at least understand it. God of War, I know there's some possibilities, a fighting game we just mentioned or whatever, or maybe another spin on Valhalla where it's you and 3 others or something, but can't get on board with that.
The thing is, thinking of some of these concepts and that, I go back to Concord. It's if Concord, instead of being a 5v5 hero shooter, if it was a generic ass
RPG,
generic ass live service with an open planets to explore
okay, I gotcha.
with its dungeons, like fucking Destiny and First Descent.
Right.
If it was just that, I would probably still be playing it.
You probably would. You would be on. That'd be up John's alley.
I love that shit. If it was that, yeah, it may not be the most popular thing, but it would have 10,000 people playing it monthly.
And it definitely would, because people love that. Because just think of the general reaction of when they did the Concord reveal trailer. Everyone was with it.
I'm that guy. I was in
a lot of people
I don't
were.
remember if we were on a call or something.
Yeah,
I think we were.
But I was getting all hyped up, excited about it. They cut to the guys on stage. They go 5v5 hero shooter, and I went,
they lost
never mind.
everybody
Yep.
just about with that.
Yep.
It's the problem is you had it right there. You just took a left turn.
Yep.
I was going to say, you had a whole image and things that people were actually getting attached to and could have stuck with.
Right.
You just went the wrong direction of what people wanted.
Yeah, which goes back to the whole I'm telling you, this entire generation is just so out of touch. And it's going to come down. It's going to come down at the top with Jim Ryan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. He's the one that signed off on all this stuff. But there are aspects about Jim Ryan that people are going to praise that came out during his tenure that he didn't sign off on. He just let it continue because the last guy signed off on it, which I believe the last guy was just Sean Layden.
Yeah.
And he signed off on it, and Jim just let it come out or pushed it to come out, whatever. But all the stuff that Jim started and Jim pushed out the door, well, we got Concord. We got Concord.
I'd probably have to agree this is the worst mismanagement, because the only other point in time you can look to, like you mentioned, is PS3. But at the end of the day, the PS3 was great.
Yeah.
It's got a great catalog.
Yep.
It's the PS3's problem was it was too expensive, the online was terrible, and it was up against the 360.
Yeah. Which was lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
It's like if it didn't have like if you took one of those away from it, the PS3 would have been
Could have been so much better.
like it would have blown up.
Yeah.
But it's like it's one of those now where PS3 is looked at as a beloved console.
Yeah.
Nobody likes the news of like, okay, well, studio that we've been waiting to hear from for the last 3 years to see what they're working on. Oh, they're working on a game that's been canceled that nobody would have wanted.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, well, now I guess we're going to wait another 2 years to figure out what they're going to do.
Well, the other half of that is just, oh yeah, the game we never announced they're working on, and it's canceled. And then we just have nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And now it puts us in a state where it's just like, if you're going to be realistic on time frames of stuff, we're probably not going to see Ben or Blue Point until PS6.
Yeah.
Like, being completely honest.
That depends because does Blue Point work on like remasters and stuff?
Yeah,
yes.
that's a lot of stuff they do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because a lot of their catalog is the recent Metal Gear stuff, too.
Yeah, because you got to think like probably not the entire studio was working on that.
You would hope so.
You would hope that like they had at least a small team dedicated, still working on like some remasters and stuff that people would be excited for, or just like maybe they had a small team working on something they wanted to do,
Right.
and now they can just put the whole team on it. But yeah, it is that thing. It's like, okay, well, we've wasted 3.5 or 5 years, however long it's been, and now it's going to be another probably 2 years before we see anything from them. And like I said, unless they've been quietly working on something with a small team.
Yeah, this, in terms of just management and just what the Sony studios have been giving us this during the PS5 era, has been pretty shoddy.
Oh, yeah. It's been a weird generation.
I was about to say, Sony is, in the later half of PS5, failed to give us really anything from first party. And then Xbox, on the other hand, just gave us a bunch of accessibility crap
Yeah.
and no first party.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a weird generation on both sides of the
2026,
street.
man.
2026.
Hey, we're about we remember last year we got all excited about the Xbox Direct and that. Well, it's like this is the year.
This is it. It's time.
It's taken 6 or 7 years, but
This is
I was
it.
about to say, the Direct was hype. We'll see what happens.
but
And it could be the last year for the Xbox Series.
But yeah, no, it's unfortunate. Like we go from like 2 years ago where like Sony was held in such high esteem for everything that was released, and then now we're here. It's like, are you gonna do something?
Right?
Yeah, it was all front loaded.
Yeah.
Like, give us something.
They don't got nothing for the last and part of their generation life.
Like all we get from you now is you canceled stuff.
Right. I mean, they've got a couple titles coming out this year that's pretty exciting. You know,
until they get canceled.
Ghost of Utah will not get canceled. All right, let's calm down. You know, excited for that one. There was something else coming out from them this year, but I can't remember what it was now.
Look on the bright side. We're approaching like a year or two away from hearing from Sony Santa Monica again.
Oh yeah, I know. That's one of the few studios that I imagine you're just gonna leave alone.
There's a couple of them where it's like I assume like head of PlayStation shows up and they're like, hey, we wanted to talk to you. It's like, with all due respect, leave.
Yeah, right. See, you would think Naughty Dog would be in that same category, but yet they got pushed into factions.
Yeah.
And then Neil had basically said, like, when factions got canceled, it's like we could have been working on single player games.
Well,
because that was the whole idea of why they canceled. It's just like, if we release this, we always have to have a team maintaining it.
Yeah.
Which takes away from what we want to do and what we're good at.
I can only imagine it was like a deal was struck where they're like, just work on it, come up with something to show me for it, and I'll leave you alone with it if I don't like it.
Right.
And then they start working on it. He's like, well, now you're already working on it.
Right.
So you might as well do it.
See, it feels like, just on both Sony and Microsoft's point, for this generation has been a very mix of just wanting studios to work on stuff they think will work.
Yeah.
Because we've had so many reports of just studios working on stuff that they just don't want to do anything with because it's
Shout out to Redfall.
I was about to say Redfall.
Shout out to Suicide Kill the Justice League, which is now over.
yeah, Arcane having to do that, then Rocksteady doing Justice
Yep.
League, Kill the Justice League,
Yep.
and then all this stuff coming from studios that had canceled games from Sony. It's just like the upper management's trying to push out games that it's like this is stuff that's making money, but they're not really looking at the actual gameplay or anything like that. They're just seeing the monetization of how that game is doing, of what the base parts of it is. It's
Right,
like,
right.
we have this property, let's do this.
Yeah.
It is a weird thing of like the guy the overall guy in charge going, you know what you need to work on, instead of the studio going, we got something for you.
Exactly. It's very different. It's like, that is exactly, it's like, this is what you should do. It's just like, but we have this over here. This seems really cool. People have been wanting this for a while. Yeah, but constant money.
But based on our analytics experts, this is something that could bring in more revenue.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is interesting, the generation that we're in. I also thought of something when it comes to what you were saying with Sony Santa Monica. It's like, again, you would think Naughty Dog would be in that realm of like leave them alone kind of thing, but obviously we saw factions. I feel like when it comes to Sony, you got two studios that are the finest definitions of Sony comes in to try to pitch something. It's just like, with all due respect, please leave. And it's Sony Santa Monica and Insomniac.
Yeah.
They're the two
Yeah.
that just cooks. They just do their thing and cooks.
Funny enough, it's like they're the ones that threw out like this generation.
Yeah.
And then like even it like towards the tail end of like the PS4 and that, they released games that were like universally praised. Nobody had an issue with them.
Right.
Meanwhile, like, people like The Last of Us like property. Not everybody liked Last of Us Part 2.
Hey.
And
That's me.
and it's like but
4
the
out of
way
10.
the way Sony looks at it is, but it sold well, so here's another remaster.
Shit, I know. And I suppose also Insomniac's not completely free of that because we had the Great Web that was being worked on and got canceled.
Yeah.
But the Great Web, I feel like, is something that...
That's one of those dark ones where, we hear the concept based from people who were working on it. It's like, that actually sounds like a very interesting concept.
And truthfully, I feel like the seeds were probably planted for that even before Spider-Man 2 came out because, there was the whole subplot in Spider-Man 2 about finding the spiders from the multiverse, and that obviously didn't go anywhere because the DLC for Spider-Man 2, I'm assuming, also got canceled. But, I was talking to Josh about the Great Web recently about just, like, how much wasted potential there could be. Where it's like, dude, literally all you have to do is just, like, really copy the model of almost like an MMO where it's like you have, like, this universe is, like, whatever universe you're in, if you're going to be in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe or maybe an adjacent one or whatever, you have that New York City. And then around that New York City, you can basically just take different multiversal portals to get to another city, another version of New York, and it's just it's multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
Easy. You have, that's your expansions. Easy. I think that would have been interesting, but I can understand to an extent why they got canceled because it's again like let Insomniac do what they're good at, which is single player games.
Also,
that's fair.
I think I'm on the other side of it where I'm like, as cool of a concept as it sounds, I think that would run its course very fast.
I don't disagree with you actually because how much could you do? You could do like speed challenges. There are the PvE element. You could probably do a PvP element in some capacity, but it's going to run its course pretty quickly.
If you're releasing a multiplayer game like that, where you're expecting people to continue to hop into it to play, we get full-blown games developed as live service games that like supposedly have like a bunch of in-game content to do, and people blow through it in a couple days.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, and if you're playing a Spider-Man game where you fly around or swing around, stop crime, do some missions, do these speed challenges, that people would finish that in 2 days.
True.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be very quick.
True.
Again, I always like to say that the concept of it was very intriguing, but it is a very thing of like, what was the scope and scale of it? Because like,
Exactly.
in my mind, based on the Spider-Man, I almost see it as like a multiplayer beat 'em up, and so
Right.
instead of being full Well, you could still do over the shoulder and whatnot, but more or less just be maps and objectives and things like that to run
Yep.
through, which would only get so far.
Yeah. You know, again, it's like what we're saying. It's like what you just said. It's like interesting concept, but also, I can see why it got canned. You know, because again, it goes back to letting Insomniac just do what they're good at. You know, just let them cook on Wolverine. Let them prep on a Venom game. Let them cook on a Spider-Man 3. Just let them do their thing.
Multiplayer roguelite Spider-Man,
Hey, I would have done it. I mean,
where you spawn in as like Spider-Man from different multiverses, but as you play through it, you fight different like villains, and as you fight different villains, you unlock new abilities to fight more or to eventually get to the end.
I mean, I'd play it.
I'd play
I
it.
mean, that's like that TMNT game, Splinter Fate, that I want to play. It's supposed to be apparently a co-op roguelite.
I don't know what it is, but I'll play it.
It's on Steam, I believe.
I'd play it.
Yeah, there you go. John will play it. But no, this is overall a weird generation. It's not just Sony, obviously. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
you know, we're not excusing Microsoft
We've
in
been
this.
dunking on Microsoft for 6 years.
But this just Sony just had recent news.
Yeah, that's just the topic for today. All right, sorry about it.
Hey, Sony's got to catch an L every now and then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it feels like all we've done is bully Microsoft for.
I mean, we
a
have for the
decade.
last couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. And fairly, we have bullied them. You know, now we can bully Sony too, and maybe we'll be bullying Nintendo too. We'll see.